Patrick McNeil back here on the broadcast. Earlier this year, we looked at the WHL's plans for return to play. So now we're speaking with Josh Brown, who is a sports reporter with the Waterloo-Region Record. OHL looks like it's going to kick off on February 4th for a 40-game schedule. Josh, what's the mood like in the Kitchener area regarding this?
I think the looks like is a bit optimistic. Where I think fingers crossed is probably more accurate. This is the third time the season's been delayed. With the start of the season, then they were supposed to come back in December, and now they're talking February 4th. I think the mood's really apprehensive. People are really excited to get hockey back. They're dying for it, but the way things are going right now with cases spiking and a lot of businesses having severe restrictions, it seems like a bit of a long shot that we're going to make it till February 4th unless something changes drastically.
Feels like there's a lot of other questions that need to be answered as well, and the big one seems to be the disagreement of sorts within the Ontario government, because the health minister coming out and saying that the OHL can't have body checking if it comes back. Doug Ford says he'd like to see body checking. Can we envision games without body checking? What do you think is going to happen there?
The Junior B loop in our area this week admitted that they're aiming for a December 2nd return, and they're willing to do it without body checking, which was a bit of a shock because I thought that nobody would ever return if the game kind of wasn't as pure as it was. I can't see the OHL doing that. Junior B is a level lower, but OHL, these are guys who are up for the draft, and in some cases already draft picks, and NHL teams are expecting them to develop these guys to play in the NHL. And it's be a pretty hard leap for me to see you're playing a season without any body checking, and then all of a sudden you get thrown into the AHL, ECHL, or even in the NHL, and all of a sudden you're expected to adjust against guys who are way older than you and used to it. It seems kind of counterproductive. I think the OHL behind the scenes is really lobbying hard to get that waived. I think part of that played into the February 4th delay until then.
The one question I'm surprised more people are not asking is the OHL of the three major leagues seems to be the worst in terms of the American team problem, because we don't have any in the queue. In the WHL, you have a whole division that can play against itself. And the OHL's in that weird middle area where they have three American teams. Do we have any idea how that's going to resolve itself?
There's lots of ideas floating around. One of them was an All-American Division 2, like the W, but it's quite different here. Erie, Pennsylvania to Flint and Saginaw, Michigan is a pretty hefty drive. I think it's about 6 to 8 hours or something like that. So I don't know how feasible that would be unless they went to one of those cities and played like 4 games in a week or something like that. And I don't know what kind of draw value that has when teams start doing that, but that's a whole other discussion with fans. Another idea was that the American teams may come to Southern Ontario, be in a bubble, and have an adopted city. If you're a hometown supporter, you don't want to watch your team play somewhere else, and vice versa. If you have a team coming into your town and you know it's only a rental for a couple of weeks or a month or something like that, not much incentive for you to go to a game. But what might happen is if things quiet down here with COVID by February 4th, I could see something like maybe the American teams open on the road for maybe a 3-week stretch, something like that. I mean, they're already doing mostly high schools from Zoom meetings anyway. That might be one way to work around it.
There had been talk from some fans in the OHL that realignment was something that they would like to see, and the press releases from the league indicate that this might not be a regular season in terms of divisional alignment.
I would love it if they realigned. I think a lot of people would. It's long overdue. It doesn't make any sense the way they have the conferences set up. So Kitchener is about a 35-minute drive from Hamilton, and they play them once a year in Hamilton, and Hamilton comes here once a year. It makes absolutely no sense. And then Hamilton's in a conference where they got to play Ottawa and Kingston, which is a 6-hour drive to Ottawa from Hamilton. It'd be great to see some realignment. I don't know if it'll be like a division realignment or if it's just you're going to play teams within your driving distance so that they don't have to go far, and also they can save some dough, not having to book hotel rooms and stuff like that, because if they have no fans or limited fans, they're really going to be hurting for money, so they're trying to look for ways to save money that way. So you'll see a lot of teams within your own division and maybe 1 or 2 other teams that are just nearby that aren't in your division. I think that will dominate the schedules.
Fans is obviously a $1 million question. It sounds like some teams in the WHL are going to try. We know how it's working in the queue. Do you get the impression that that's something that's realistic to expect that have fans if the games resume?
I did a story on the queue about 2 months ago, and they were talking about 20 to 25%. Are you guys still at that level, or are you higher now?
It varies by province, just because of the way the numbers go. Teams haven't really been able to get up to that number, but I think in theory they can.
My whole argument's always been if the Q's doing it, the OHL is going to demand it. I mean, I don't know why you'd want to return if another league's proving that they can do it and they can do it safely. Bottom line is some of these teams need this money. I don't think this is going to make any team fold this season, but there's no doubt that teams are going to be losing money and they're going to have to bite the bullet and fight through this and eat some profit or even break even dollars this year. Like the Kitchener Rangers are one of the most successful teams in the OHL. They made $6.7 million in total revenue in 2019. Take away 4 months for where they've been delayed so far, and that's a lot of dough. They're having to furlough staff. Most of the teams in the OHL have furloughed staff. So if the teams that are at the top are having a tough time, some of these smaller markets are really going to struggle. And without those fans, it's going to be killer. So they're going to do everything in their power to get them back in there, even if it's a limited amount. Right across the CHL, it's a completely gate-driven league, and they need the dough.
In the queue, Patrick Waugh has been very vocal. He feels the CHL has not really supported the Quebec League when it comes to getting imports. He says it's going to be a different story when the OHL season starts. Any progress on Americans and Europeans playing for this February 4th start date?
I'm trying to remember. Does Cape Breton have one of my favorite all-time names in the CHL, Ivan?
He is. Unfortunately, he's not here yet.
Okay. Imports, from what I've been told, they're reporting in mid-January. Americans and imports will be here for 2 weeks before training camp starts. So they'll be here for 2 weeks to quarantine. As far as I know, as long as the countries they're in don't have restricted policies on them traveling, most OHL teams are expecting to get their imports here, American as well.
Fascinating, because that has not been the case in the QMJHL. Memorial Cup is in the OHL this year. In theory, I guess there's a cloud over that as well. Any progress on picking a host?
I was just talking to the president of the Oshawa Generals, who was one of the finalists. It's the Sioux in Oshawa who are bidding. I talked to him about 2 weeks ago, and I just said, do you even want this? If there are limited fans or no fans, and it costs about $3 to $4 million to host, regardless of COVID, because you're putting all these teams up in hotels and paying for their meals. I don't know what the incentive is even hosted this year, but both cities are still going full bore. They haven't done their formal presentations yet. I think the OHL has been waiting to see how things shake down with COVID. My guess is it's going to Oshawa. Owner there was saying they're going to do everything they can to go all in this year, trades, everything. They don't care. They said if we're hosting it, we're building the best team we can possibly build. My guess is it's going to be in Oshawa.
Great insight, Josh. Thanks for telling us all about it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Anytime.
That's Josh Brown, ready for the Waterloo-Region Record covering the OHL. You're listening to the Intermission of McDonald Auto Hub. Cape Breton Eagles Hockey, 1270 CJCB.